506.
What's up?
There's an unmanned train on the northbound track.
It's under power?
It's coming straight at us.
What are we worried about in terms of cargo?
8 freight cars of hazardous chemicals. We're not just talking about a train. We're talking about a missile the size of the Chrysler building.
I need to know where that train is.
We're not exactly sure.
You're not sure? We'll find out. Watch out!
It gets worse.
What is this train so angry about? That was one mad-ass train.
The Foley guy was mad anyway. Every single scene in this movie is like the train going, boom! I think it was a dragon or something, the way they have it mic'd.
Well, it's funny because how there's nothing really sinister going on here.
No.
Other than that train growling.
There's no bad guy.
No. Except the train's like, okay, fat guy, he sets the brake, but the train, once he steps off, the train goes, nah. And unsets it and just starts taking off on its own.
Well, see, I was trying to look for that green mist over the city, just like in Maximum Overdrive.
Yeah, Maximum Overdrive.
Because there's a scene where you see the throttle it's almost like it's pushing itself down into position.
Ghost train!
Yeah.
And I'm just like, okay, wait a minute. Is this supernatural now? What's going on?
I know. I turned to co-host in one part of the movie. I was like, man, we need a big green goblin head on the front of this.
That's what I kept expecting the whole time.
The film keeps expecting it gets away with its whole premise by assuming that its audience doesn't know shit about how trains work. And you know what? I gotta say, that's true. They talk a lot of, it might as well be Star Trek because there's so much techno-babble on it at points.
Well, it worked because the camera kept on moving so goddamn fast whenever somebody was about to explain something. It's like zoom out of the, next scene, boom, 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 boom.
I know it was something involving a flux capacitor. That's all.
Hey, don't be talking shit about the flux capacitor now. Now you're getting personal.
I mean, it was at one point where the brakes were unlocked on the train.
Yeah.
And it was just right then that train was like, unleash! And that train was like, roar! I was waiting for one part of the movie where the train just got off the tracks and just started attacking the town. See Japanese people running.
To be fair, these characters are so thin that I felt like the train just felt like it had to step up and do something.
It was the biggest personality in the film. I mean, it wasn't until the last act that you literally know anything about the main characters. They have barely had a conversation until the last 20 minutes of the film.
You know what's funny, though? On the poster, if you look at the poster, you don't see that train anywhere on the poster, even though it should have its own credit, and it should at least be in the background, kind of like a Phantom Menace poster or something. Like how they used to put Darth Vader in the posters. They should have the face of that train because, like you said, that train looked like it had a growling face on the front of it. I mean,
that train looked mad.
The perfect train.
I don't know what they said to that train before they let it go, but whatever it was, that train didn't like it. and so this is Tony Scott's brother Ridley Scott. Tony Scott's second train movie. Yeah. And considering
in a row.
Yeah, in a row. Yeah, like he's found a new hobby or something.
He's getting old. He likes to play with his train.
Clearly, he forgot that he made a train movie just not that long ago.
And you know what? Taking a Pelham 123 or whatever they just called it the Pelham
123
TP 123. I don't even know, but looks like a masterpiece compared to Unstoppable.
I know, that's the thing. It's like it was a feeling like, okay, well, I guess he'll get it right this time. No.
What we need to do is strip out all the characters, all the plot, and just do the camera shit and the sound effects for a whole movie.
Well, that's the thing. It's like watching it, I'm like, okay, you get a couple scenes from the side where that train's going fast or fast-ish. Otherwise, I'm watching whenever the guys, Chris Pine or Denzel Washington have to get out on the edge and do something. I'm looking at him like, this train's actually moving pretty slow.
Yeah,
they just got the sound cranked up to make you think it's going fast.
And pull it back and that thing is going chugga.
It's weird. Like usually at this point we'll have delved into the plot of this movie is, but there's a problem because there really is no plot other than it's a train that by accident goes out of control and some guys try to stop it. And that's the entire plot of the film.
Cyrus, you just spoiled the whole thing.
I did. I just gave away the whole film.
They do try to bring some character development in there because
like Denzel Washington's kids working at the Hooters.
At the Hooters, the techno Hooters.
Come on now, we've seen
Club Hooters.
We've seen television commercials with more character development than this film.
Well, yeah, you got Denzel Washington who he works at this railroad company. He's the old veteran, and then Chris Pine comes in who got in through some connections. He's the new guy. He's the rookie, and so when these two have to get paired together to stop this train, of course, there's some there's some tension. This guy's like, hey, you come in and take everybody's job, but then they have to work together. And then, the train is full of explosives. It's full of chemicals. If it gets to Staten, Pennsylvania, apparently it's going to explode in a big mushroom cloud and everybody's going to evaporate or change into zombies or something. So they got to stop this train before it gets to that crucial town.
It's funny. They tell you all that, all these things they say, and yet you don't feel any of that. It's like, they're like, no, if it gets to this town, it's populated with all these people. But you watch and it's like, it's just a train on the track.
Yeah.
Why can't just go right on through? I understand.
It's not till later in the film it's even making it to like 70.
Yeah.
And you're like, man, I went like 20 miles faster than that train just coming over to Corey's house to record for this movie afterwards. Like, really? Is it that big a deal?
Well, that's the problem with the movie is that now this is why I was looking forward to it because I thought we were going to get the feeling that this train was really going fast and it was a race against time. Yeah. And yeah, you're right. There are certain points. The only time it felt like the train was going fast is when you were under the train. Because I can't tell you how many shots they had of the train going over your head, and it's like that's kind of cheating.
And you saw all the lights going by, like when the Millennium Falcon goes into hyperdrive.
Yeah.
You see everything whizzing by so quick. You're like, wow, that's really quick. But when you see him running, it's just all right.
Well, it's because if you take away from like what the movie's trying to convince you with the camera tricks, like you're talking about, and with the Foley, the sound effects are. This is the loudest movie I've seen in as long as I can remember. Because there's nothing else. It's not an exciting film. It's all it manipulates you into thinking it's exciting by constantly having extreme close-ups of hydraulics going off in your ear and shit like that, and the track running over shit on the tracks. You're like, wow, that's not exciting.
Well, that's my problem with Tony Scott. Tony Scott, I've never been a big fan of because Tony Scott has the shortest attention span when it comes to camera work and editing. Everything that he does, it always cuts to people yelling, it cuts to words on the screen. Except for his pacing. I mean, it's like for a guy who likes to cut so much,
I forgot about that.
It's like,
super slow.
Yeah, your action is never all that great, and your pacing is kind of slowed down.
Because he thinks he doesn't need to have pacing if you're using those camera tricks. That's his whole. That's every single one of his movies, even his good ones like True Romance. You're like, shit, man, stop this. Just play the fucking scene and let the camera show it. I mean, like you watch the scene with Christopher Walken and Dennis Hopper, the famous scene in True Romance, and the camera didn't stop moving around.
No.
Like, this is amazing dialogue with two great actors, and you can't sit the fuck down for 2 seconds.
That's going to be his next movie. Unstoppable Camera.
I mean, you gotta wonder how this guy directs when people are sitting there because they're just sitting there trying to have a conversation. Tony Scott's up here, he's down there, he's behind you, he's in front of you. It's like, well, yeah, you're right. Well, you just want to grab him by his head, just stop, just get a tripod and just move
with
back.
Denzel Washington the whole time going, I'm Denzel Washington, motherfucker, bitch. I'm about to retire.
I know, that was like the only thing to really make you worry is like, oh, this poor guy's about to retire. Just like that cop in that one movie.
Yeah.
But,
He's
he's getting too old for this shit. Yeah, I did love how they had at least 3 helicopters going on throughout every scene. Even when you see them like trying to like get the train in control, there's like a helicopter like ground level flying like right next to Chris Pine, like right next to his face.
I know.
Like I was like, is that helicopter to transform and help him out? What's gonna happen?
He's in trouble. Hey, it looks like our Blade chopped his head off.
Well, that helicopter was only there so we could like have that, so we can go into what little bit there is that passes for a backstory for him, that he's estranged from his wife, so his wife can watch him dying on camera at home.
Sister-in-law comes over here. Here, wake your kid up so she can watch his dad die on TV. And Corey, you brought up like the whatever the setup was for the two characters, the tension. That Denzel Washington's the old guy who might lose his job, and Chris Pine is the young guy who might be taking a job.
Young blood.
Yeah, they bring that up like, well, they just afraid you can take their jobs. Well, that's not what I'm gonna do. Well, okay. Well,
seems like that's the end of the tension, really.
Yeah,
well,
let's enjoy this train ride.
Well, I can already tell you, and again, I'm on. Lately, I've been the guy who's the soft guy here, the guy, because I did.
You've always been the soft guy, dude. You're always the guy who's like, it's a matinee when it so clearly is some old bullshit.
Well, I hate to be that guy, but that's the kind of Negro I am. I guess because I did like it. I mean, I like Denzel Washington because I think that Denzel Washington, I mean, this guy can bring personality to anything. Denzel Washington could be playing a rock, and you'd be like, man, that's a charming ass rock.
What are you doing?
Take off right now. We get back on the main. We can chase it down in reverse.
Whoa, wait a minute.
The only way to stop that kind of power, grab it by the tail, boom, gun in the opposite
We
direction.
can't just chase that. If it goes down, we're going to be a wreck on a wreck.
Doesn't matter. There's a good chance the derailleur won't work.
It's called a derailleur, for Christ's sake. That's what they do.
That size, going that fast, it'll vaporize anything that gets in its way.
They wouldn't use it if they didn't.
They're wrong, all right? They're wrong. Are you in or are you out?
Okay, you want to get yourself killed, you do it alone. Wait. If you're right and that derailleur fails, what are the odds it makes it to Stanton?
You saw the train. What do you think?
Denzel Washington should have been the train.
Yeah, you should. It should have been Denzel Washington's head on the front of that train.
I mean, you say that, but even so, through most of this movie, he's not even really in it.
Yeah.
I mean,
he's
he
almost
doesn't.
an extra almost,
yeah, he's
really.
almost a
That's
supporting character in this film.
Well,
it's not about him, and he isn't given anything to do until the last 20 minutes.
Well, besides that one cool line, this isn't about you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, I'm not doing this for you.
Talk about
Yeah,
that
I'm not
last,
doing
that
this
last
to you.
20 minutes. I mean, the last 10 minutes of this movie is just all the characters coming together and high-fiving each other. I ain't never seen a movie where people where they congratulated each other so much.
Seriously, I expected a bunch of hobbits to jump on the bed with Chris Pine at the end and give him hugs.
Well, the thing is, there's a crucial point where it's supposed to like really build up. Like there's a point where on the track where all hell is about to break loose, where this track is about to come into contact with like a nuclear power plant, a warehouse full of fireworks. I mean, it's like
It's gonna open the cage with werewolves.
This train derails and lands in this specific place. The whole fucking world. There's gonna be a huge hole in the earth, and
What's Scranton, Pennsylvania? Who gives a shit?
Well, yeah, just let it go.
And the thing is, it really does build up so much that there's no payoff. I mean,
Well, see, for me there was. All right, now, but you're right. I mean, Tony Scott, that's another thing. A lot of times when his movies are supposed to be serious, you get it full of cartoonish characters. I mean, that's how this whole thing starts. I'm looking at the guys here. You've seen the guys like one who's a Kevin Smith, like
Ethan Suplee.
Yeah, and then Kevin
Clerks,
Clerks, yeah, and all that.
yada.
My name is Earl.
My name is Earl.
Yeah. And then this guy T.J. Miller. They're two total goofballs. I mean, they are cartoon characters, and at this moment, it sets up a light mood that kind of it takes the base from any kind of tension you would have. However, where you guys don't think there was any payoff, I feel like the last 10 minutes was pretty exciting. I love the thing with Chris Pine and Denzel Washington having to go under the train, climb over the train, run over the train. I mean, I thought that was probably the most exciting part of the movie, and it paid off for me.
Well, the only thing that kept this movie from being a complete and utter some old bullshit is that last 10 minutes. But even that's not enough to really save it. I mean, you're talking about the last 10 minutes of the rest of a film that's so boring, so manipulative, so characterless, and just god-awful that I can't imagine trying to be fair just because of, like, maybe 5 of that 10 minutes being a few
Well, it's not being fair. I mean, like I said, there were spots of the movie that I enjoyed where you didn't
watch this movie again.
Yeah, there's a lot of movies I'll never watch again. There's movies I loved I would never watch
you will
again.
Be someplace where it will be on, and you'll be like, oh yeah, I remember saying I like this movie.
Unless the title Training Day is on there, I will probably never watch it again.
Well,
but,
one thing I'll say about this movie, and I guess it's just watching it with Corey, and we were in the theater with Hyde tonight, was that it is one of those movies that it's almost in the vein of like Snakes on a Plane type film, to where it's almost so ridiculous that you can't help but laugh at a lot of the scenes, which makes it fun, especially like it is kind of like one of those generic Hollywood summer roller coaster ride type of film, because it's completely brainless, but there are a lot of scenes that are so ridiculous, and they make you try to get so into the scene, because the music is so intense, the camera work is so intense, that it becomes a parody. And I at least saw that watching it, and I think that's part of the reason why I did kind of enjoy it.
And that's something else about it, too. Like, I don't even think that they were taking it serious. I don't think Tony Scott – no, Tony Scott's one of those guys where I don't think he takes a lot of things seriously. I think that's one of the things that was messed up about the Taking of the Pelham 1, 2, 3, because the original is actually a comedy.
Right.
And then looking at what Tony Scott, I was like, well, he's perfect for this thing because he never takes anything seriously. And then he didn't. And then I'm looking at this, I'm like, well, this is the tone that should have been in the Taking of the Pelham 1, 2, 3. I think y'all are being just a little bit too harsh on this movie. I mean, could it have used more plot and character development? Yeah, it could have. But I got it where it mattered, and that was with the two leads, Denzel Washington and Chris Pine. I thought they interacted very well together. Did the movie move a little bit slow? Yeah, especially in the beginning for a speeding train film. But it led up to a climax that I thought was well directed and very suspenseful. And the things that you're criticizing the movie for, I don't think that it was shooting that high, and that should not be an excuse for the movie, but it did deliver enough for me to give it a good matinee.
You know what? I saw it as Tony Scott not taking it seriously, but not in that he was playing it tongue in cheek, more like he didn't give a shit.
Yeah, the paycheck.
Yeah, I mean, I just found it completely lazy and boring. I mean, I could go with everything you guys are saying, like, oh, I could kick back and have fun, but for that time, I was bored as shit. And yeah, the payoff was weak. And then what happened after the payoff, the whole like, hey, let's throw out some credits, and this would happen to this character. I'm like, stop it. You didn't earn that. No, nobody gives a shit what happened to any of these people because they were paid. But these characters so thin, Lindsay Lohan would have told them to eat a sandwich. I mean, I felt like, you know what? I'm not somebody who hates Tony Scott. I just think well, he's not that great. I was watching this movie when it was done. I thought Tony Scott can suck my dick. I get this movie some old bullshit.
You know, I agree with 99% of what you're saying. It's that Tony Scott with his movies lately has just made me go, you know what? You don't care anymore. You just don't care. You've gone, you know what? If I was going to be a great artistic talent, I would have done it by now. So at this point, I'm just in it for the fucking paycheck. I'm just going to rip myself off. They keep giving me money. Denzel Washington, I can't get rid of him with a stick. So, you know, it's just, there's nothing, I couldn't disagree with you guys more about this being entertaining in a spoofy way. There's no way they intended that here. This is boring as fuck, and that's the biggest problem with it. Nothing happens in this movie until the very, very end. Well, at the best, and this is being so fair to it, it's not even fair to me. I'm giving it a low rental.
I never said it was a spoof, by the way. I just said that it was, they never, but you know what? I understand what you're saying, where Tony Scott had just pretty much looked in the mirror and finally said, you know what, I'm not my brother.
I have no artistic integrity. I have a bunch of cheap tricks, and that's all I've got.
Yeah.
Well, never put a guy named Doodley or Dudley. What was his name? The guy who was in charge.
Dewey.
I
mean, his name is Dewey. You know he's gonna fuck something up.
Yeah, it's like with a stupid name like that, and especially like when you see this big fat guy trying to jump.
I know.
On
Yeah, the Ethan Suplee. Yeah, character like who hired him?
Yeah, never hire a guy named Dewey to work an important job, or you'll get a film like this. Yeah, I mean, it was. I did have a fun time, like laughing at this film, just laughing at how badly just shot it was. Because I mean, the one thing that gave me a headache, I mean, Cloverfield was nothing compared to this movie. As far as if anybody has problems with shaking cameras, this camera is all over the place. Even when there's nothing going on, the camera is like doing 180s around cameras and trains, and you're like, there's nothing really going on in this scene. There's no action.
Yeah, you're having lunch, and the chicken salad is sizzling real loud.
Goddamn train, you know? But there was too much of that really like started to really annoy me. And yeah, there wasn't hardly any character development. They really tried hard to, make these guys like more than two-dimensional characters, especially Denzel Washington. But you know what? I still like watching Denzel, even though anybody could have had that role. I mean, honestly. But yeah, whenever you put him in, I mean, you pay attention to him. You can't help but watch the guy do what he's doing and root for him. But other than that, yeah, I mean, I'm gonna go ahead and give it a rental. Because, I'm giving it a rental only because if you're watching it with a bunch of friends and you just want to see a fucking ridiculous movie and laugh at it, this is the movie to do it to,
Okay, don't let me be one of those friends you watch this with.
Yeah.
I'm going to go back and tell everybody that you don't know shit about movies.
I got stacks of movies that are perfect for that. This ain't one of them.
As a friend, they'd be like, why is this shit on? Put on some cartoons. Let me watch SpongeBob.
Yeah, my friend will go, who invited Grandpa over here?
Yeah, don't let them deter you.
I thought you did.
Yeah, don't let them influence you, Cole. Be unstoppable.
I'll be laughing at him tonight.
Watching the mad, frantic style of this film, there was more than this train doing rails. I'm telling you what. Somebody needs to tell Tony to put the powder away and try and make a real movie again.
Yeah, no, hey, man, you didn't like the part where they had to stop the train from going off the rails at the curve and all that?
Like I said, that was the last couple minutes of the film after sitting through such boring bullshit nonstop for the whole rest of it. You're going to give it like a whole extra 2 stars or so for that?
No, you get to watch Rosario Dawson yell at people over the intercom.
Yeah, well,
Isn't that exciting?
In its own right.
Her boss rake his hands through his hair, going, "Oh, what the."
oh, that was the other thing. I mean, this guy puts in every cliche that you can in a movie. Like, Rosario Dawson is the hard-ass female, and the corporate guys, they call them tell them about this train going out of control, and what are they doing? They're playing golf.
Yeah.
And they don't even go. They don't leave. It's just like, the guy sitting up there at the putt, he's like, it's your call.
Plus, the whole time you're watching, you just can't believe, like, guys, seriously, there's got to be a way to stop this train. It just doesn't look like it's that hard.
Yeah, to
like,
talk about
y'all are making this hard.
suspension of disbelief. I was like, really? There's nothing else you could have done at this
Let's see if I
point.
got this right. The problem is that there's no conductor at the front to pull the brake, but you have a helicopter flying overhead. Really, there's just no way to make it
You didn't
happen.
see they tried to do that.
No, they did.
Yeah,
Once.
But you don't try it just
Once.
Once is enough.
There's like 8 helicopters around it at all times. They're just filming the other cameraman at that point. You
Well,
know?
just think about what you said. There are 8 cameras running around. Do you want to be that guy dangling around 8 helicopters? While
I tell you what, Tony Scott does.
Yeah.
I think he was on every helicopter filming it.
Whoever was filming the thing was doing it.
Tony Scott's a stuntman because he's hopping from helicopter to helicopter filming that shit. But here's another reason why I guess I like the movie, because this is why I saw it as ridiculous, and they weren't taking it serious, because there are moments they do treat that train like a monster. They actually stop, shoot at it with bullets. like the train is gonna die if they do that. And then they even like treat it like it's a living thing, because there's one guy who's on the news is like, yeah, we put these things to stop it right there on the track. It's not gonna know what hit it. I was like, it's not gonna know what hit it because it's not alive.
just shoot it in the head.
Shoot it in the head like a zombie. Yeah. You just shoot in the head and it just goes over.
Close your eyes if you want it. You got a real knack for inspiring confidence, you know that?